Art can mean different things to different people. For me, it's all about the joy. It's time to put away your brushes and paint and explore the unknown.
Welcome to Art Talk with John Cole Artist.
Well, how was that for an intro?
Awesome. Like it.
Love it.
That was great.
Yeah, that actually turned out better than I thought it was going to turn out. Actually, it was pretty cool.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. So, hey, everybody that's watching live on Facebook and YouTube tonight. I'm John Cole Artist, and today is the 10th of October. I can't believe we're already in October already. And since Halloween is only 21 days away, it's the 31st, right?
3 weeks, yeah.
3 weeks away. I thought it would be a great time to have some paranormal investigators on the show to talk about the art of the paranormal. So tonight, I am so happy to have on Lucinda and Donald Bentley. And some of you folks might know Lucinda. This is her third appearance on the show. So Lucinda, welcome. And Donald, welcome. And I also have Sam and Heather Cox. Welcome to you both as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I am so excited to have you guys on. I know you guys are former members. This is how we broadcast it out, right? The former members of the Georgia Paranormal Society. And I know you guys have sent me all kinds of cool pictures, and we have a audio to look at. So what I'd like to do tonight is just talk about the paranormal, your experiences, maybe tell some stories. And as we're talking, I'll tell you some of my stories as well and share some of the stuff that I have too. So I think it's going to be a really, really cool podcast tonight. So sit back, folks, and if you have a stuffed animal to cuddle with, maybe you should grab that right now, or maybe a cat, because I think there's a black cat that's actually sitting on the couch behind you.
Sushi.
Always up in the mix.
Yeah. Well, if I could have you guys maybe introduce yourselves a little bit and tell our audience a little more about you. So whichever order you want to go in, I don't think we kind of determined that, but you could pick a pecking order and we'll just start.
My name is Heather, and I've been paranormal investigating for probably a good decade almost. And I've been interested in it for more than half my life. I've got to go to a lot of places, experience a lot of things.
And my name is Sam. And of course, Dawn and I, Cindy were the original founders of the Georgia Paranormal Society. I've been doing this for about a little over a decade now. And what really got me interested in doing this was I'm a former police detective, and I wanted to prove it was fake. And that's what got me interested in doing this.
Awesome. Donald?
I'm Donald. Been doing the same with him. I got into it because I just thought it was cool. I was very interested in it. My parents, my mom's side, always kind of talked about stuff. And then me and him got talking about it. And I was also kind of wanting to go, I want to debunk. I love investigating it and trying to figure out why something's doing what it is and proving that it's because of this. This is what you're hearing, and have been proven wrong to myself a lot. So it's been fun for me.
Yeah.
Next.
I'm Lucinda, also known as Cindy. And I remember as a child, I had quite a lot of experiences with ghosts and with, hearing things that were not coming from a human in the room. I thought that was normal, and everybody had that same experience for a long time. And then, of course, I met Donald, I met Sam. When the idea of Georgia Paranormal Society came up, of course, I was 100% in at that point. And so I get downloads from spirit on a regular basis, whether it's a ghost or what, it just comes through. It's just, I'm just a vessel that it comes through. So that was kind of what I did with the team. Was the spirit.
I've had experiences since I was like probably about 5, 6, 7 years old myself.
Yeah, I thought it was just normal. Everybody had it.
Well, I didn't necessarily think it was normal. I just, but I've had experiences. I remember that stuff pretty well.
Yeah.
So that's probably what sparked my interest in it when I finally became an adult and was like, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So Christine, my wife, she's actually out of town, so I'm in the house alone. So hopefully no spirits are joining me. But she says, "Hello, beautiful souls. Amazing intro. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that." Yeah. So Heather, do you consider yourself then sensitive to this since you've had these experiences for so long?
Yeah, I'm definitely an empath. I definitely feel that stuff. But yeah, I mean, like things follow me, things congregate around me. And yeah, I've had, experiences, and probably just like any normal person, until I really got into it, I used to dismiss a lot of things. Oh, it's just the pipes. It's just a creaky house, whatever, oh, it's just something in my peripheral. I just wasn't seeing anything, but I don't dismiss anything now, but I'm just like them. I want to go see what it is, and I want to figure it out. Is it real or is it a pipe creaking?
Right.
But yeah, I would say I'm pretty sensitive, and I've seen a lot of things, heard a lot of things. So, yeah.
Now, as far as the two men, which is interesting. Now, do you two consider yourself sensitive at all, or are you just approaching it from the empirical perspective? You know what I mean? Seeing something and trying to figure out.
He probably,
he's an empath.
Yeah, he's more that. If I am, I don't embrace it.
He doesn't acknowledge it.
I'm more the one that actually wants to find out. Okay, so y'all said that creaked over there. Well, give me a second. I got 2 screwdrivers and a stethoscope. I'm gonna figure out why.
Right.
And I like the electronic parts of it. Going, cool. We got a new camera. Let's set it up.
He's our Inspector Gadget.
Yeah. So he's more in tune than I am.
And I'll be honest with you, John. I think that the more you do it, the more you're involved in it, the more investigations that you do, the more open that you become. And also the more that the stuff that's out there, the spirits, whatever you want to call it, want to communicate with you because they know
that you're open.
They can sense that you're open. They'll try to make that reach out to you. And if they know that they can make a, communication with you, it's going to continue to happen. I think you become more in tune the more you do it.
You vibrate at a different level and they can feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our daughter she's an empath too. And it's when we lived, during the pandemic, when we survived 2020, it was very high energy in our house.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
But we had all kinds of experiences at home too.
Yeah.
Just living there, not investigating. So, you had a really cool experience when we got engaged.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got engaged on a Friday the 13th. It was a full moon as well. And I traveled down to Savannah to spend the week with him because it was right at his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually saw my Nana in our house, like full body apparition.
The only time I've ever seen an apparition.
Wow.
I was not hunting anything.
A month later, I went to an event, and I had a bunch of friends that were going, and so I was leading their group. And one of them she's Claire Everything, and she was doing her little thing, and I asked about my Nana, and she said, "Your Nana's going to Savannah with you. She likes him. She thinks he's funny, and you need somebody funny." And I had not told her about it because I forgot all about it. So there was the validation that she actually showed up in our house.
Yeah. So that begs this question then, since, so Sam, you saw this apparition of her grandmother.
The only time I've ever seen an apparition.
Yeah.
For that, and this was 2020.
No, it was 2019.
Or 2019.
Yeah.
So, at that time I had done so many investigations at so many, locations and never seen anything like that. And here I am, I'm sitting on the couch. We're watching Harry Potter on TV. And I just caught it out of the corner of my eye, and I look over, and it's funny because people can tell you what an apparition looks like, but until you actually see it for yourself, it's kind of one of those things that you don't believe.
Right.
And it's not, for me, it was not that solid figure with, full color that you would think. It was more of a foggy projection, almost really really light in color. There was still color,
Right.
but it was really, really light. Like you could almost see through it, but it was there and it was looking right at me. And
Just checking him
just
out.
as quick as just as quick as I looked up and saw it, and second or two later, it just was gone, just fade away.
So that's a great example then of, human spirits here on Earth. Do you think that that is what all spirit phenomenon, or all, maybe I shouldn't say spirit phenomena. Do you think that's what all paranormal activity is, are human residuals, or do you think there's more than that? Oh, you're all shaking your head no. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot more than that.
Okay. So what do we think then? I mean, well, let me ask you this. What do you think in addition to that are we experiencing?
Well, they can answer theirs probably more in depth than me. I'll tell you on my end that I've seen, because I'm the one that doesn't feel a lot of stuff that they do.
Right.
And what made me believer through the investigations we did and just watching them do stuff is more of learning of residual energy that's left behind by an act. We had a spot that where Cindy and I lived in Georgia. Down from our house was an old train trestle still being used. And after doing a lot of history for it in that area, which is what I love, is the history. So I did a lot of research in history for it and found out that Sherman, when he did the march to Atlanta, the brigade, whatever you want to call it, that he was actually with, was actually there. And they burned that trestle when they came through. When we did investigation down there, we found stuff. They, heard things. But I gathered more of the residual energy of what was going on there that I actually felt and was hearing. So, but even with like animals and stuff, we've had animals in our house and we love our animals and stuff. And I know if I've seen something or heard a bark or whatever, it is them. It's not, but I don't think it's them. It's their energy that was left behind in the house. So that's, like, to me, that's what I've learned and became a believer on. I personally, I don't know if I've really ever seen, true paranormal. Probably have and just ignored it.
Yeah, dismissed it like we've been taught.
Because I would probably run or whatever. So
you would have ran. Yeah, I think residual, in my opinion, and all the investigations I've done, residual is probably the most common. You do have a lot. There are a lot of like intelligent spirits out there that you can communicate with back and forth, but like when you hear a lot of stories about this lady, you always see her and she just walks down this hall and walks through the wall. Well, that's probably just a memory. It's probably an imprint because it's something she did so much, or it was a place that she really liked to be at, or it was a traumatic place, and that's just the strongest memory that she had.
Energy
imprint. Yeah, an energy imprint. So
kind of like a bump in the road in a sonar scan or something. You can see that, there's something happened there.
Right. And I've never seen an apparition per se, but I've seen shadow people for sure. I've seen full on arms and legs, seen it. And that was pretty cool. In a dark room, how do you see a shadow?
Right. Yeah.
I believe everything has energy, like, we always talk about, and anything that has an energy to itself that's living can leave that behind. And you can somehow, like when you're doing investigations more than I did, but in whatever investigations people are doing, might be seeing the energy from whatever it is that's out there.
And your energy that you bring to the situation as well, the energy of the people who are inhabiting, the human beings that are inhabiting that space can have an effect on the energy that's left behind.
It's kind of like the cop days with like trace evidence. There's always a transference of stuff. So energy.
Yeah. And sort of just playing off of what all of them have said, I think that energy can take any form, whether it is, looks like a ball of energy, whether it is a full-on apparition, whether it is a mist, I don't have an explanation as to why it takes on those different forms. I don't think that they always, like they're saying that they have to be human.
Mhm.
Obviously, it had to be. You want to say it would have to be something that was some type of living being, but that's not necessarily true either. It could be something that unfortunately, I think that's overblown, which is the demonic stuff. I don't think that there's really as much as that as people like to play it out on TV.
Mhm.
But definitely that's got to be there. You can't have good without evil.
Yeah.
But that we all have some version of not okay.
Yes.
And so,
And I've been to a few places where I'm like, ooh, I don't know about the energy that's in this place.
Yeah.
and then people's impressions in general, just our normal impression in general, someone of a Christian faith is probably immediately going to go to a demonic.
Yes.
A demon. Yeah.
Yeah, if someone is of
More spiritual.
more spiritual, they may go to Native American. That there were Indians there, or there was some kind of a conflict, not necessarily a version of a human being.
Right.
And we noticed that in other investigators too. That's one of the things that we've all tried to really separate ourselves from that. You don't bring you can't bring your personal religion and things into an investigation if you're trying to find the truth.
Yeah, I agree with that, because that was going to be a question, but Lucinda, you kind of answered that for me, so thank you. And that was, what do you think, your religious affiliations, how do you think that affects your environment?
Oh yeah.
And I would agree that I believe that it does, because you're right. You hear the word demonic entities, I think most of, if not all of the ghost shows on television do tend to use that.
Some more particular than others.
Yeah, but that whole term really it's a Christian thing. If you're not Christian, then how can it be that, right? At least in that form. But I would agree with Sam that, good and evil, and even that I think can be open to interpretation as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's all about how your energy interacts with whatever energy is there in the room. And
It's
it might
shades of
feel
gray, right? Yeah.
great to you, but it might not feel that great to me.
And it's just positive and negative.
Yeah,
I mean, the
it's not
energy
good
is
and bad,
positive
it's
and
just positive or negative.
ions,
Yeah.
in the air. And so you're going to have what happens when you have that scientific thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we'll talk about the scientific in a second. Christine has a question. She says, do you think this energy is rooted in strong emotions that were expressed in a space like anger, grief, and sadness? That's the first part of the question.
Absolutely.
There's one good example is, I think I saw one where some people tried to go do like a investigation at one of the Holocaust camps. And that's one of the things: grief, anger, tragedy. And that's the feeling that you're going to get. It combines into that. And like they're talking about, it's not demonic, it's just sadness. And that's the energy you're going to feel. And some people are going to go in there and go, oh, they're going to get this. Some other people are going to look at it a little differently.
Well, and not just even sadness and grief and anger and all that stuff. I mean, happiness and everything.
Yeah.
If somebody was really, truly like this, I've been to Disney and this is my favorite place in the world, and they might show up at Disney somewhere because that's what made them happy.
Yeah.
That's where they have their biggest impression.
They're still on Ghost Mountain.
Yeah.
She says, do you think if this energy
Bill.
it can manifest into a being? I think that's dependent on the individual that's experiencing what's going on and where their fear brain goes.
Well, and not just that, but maybe also to like what kind of equipment that you have out, what kind of things where, because they pull from energy from things to be able to manifest. So if you have enough stuff out, there's a good chance that you might see something a little more than the next person who only has a couple pieces of equipment.
And your
So,
belief plays a big role in that.
so one of the things, like you talked about that, one of the places I investigated was an old Civil War prison camp, and definitely the entire feeling out there was sadness and just depression, and the stuff that we got off the EVPs there were stuff like, help me, go away, leave me alone, leave, and things like that was what we were receiving out there.
There was desperation in the jail that we did, the old jail that we investigated as well. It was just a desperate energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like she's talking about, you can go to a place or a house and say someone who lived there had kids and just awesome, fun, great life there and everything else, and you walk into it and you could have that good energy.
Yeah, that when you walk
You know,
Yeah,
when you
it's
go
positive.
and you see an orb go by, or you see something go by that's like happy.
Yeah.
So it's not
Yeah.
not everything's always negative.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
No.
There's as much of the positive as there is
Yeah.
of the negative.
I would say, like, out of all the investigations that I've done, there's probably maybe 3 places that I can say that the energy felt not so fun, for lack of a better way to say it. But pretty much any place that I've investigated, it's been fairly benign or positive.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I think the whole demon word is used way too frequently.
With hype as well. For
Yeah,
the TV.
and yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like, I think sometimes people who are maybe inexperienced with it are quick to jump to that word just to have something to call it. You know,
Yeah.
instead of saying, okay, the energy's just off here. Well, I mean, what happened here? Were there a bunch of deaths? Was it a hospital? Was it a
It's
prison?
just a mad
Was it
spirit.
a war? You know,
He was
a
just
battlefield?
ornery. He's just an ornery spirit. That's all.
Ornery.
Yeah. So the energy piece, I'm glad you brought that up. I'll share one experience that I had, and this was aboard the USS Hornet. This was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. There was a Paracon, and went there for that, met a few folks, and then at night they allowed us to ghost hunt till about 2 a.m. and then
Nice.
we could all sleep on the Hornet, and then the next day we left. So two things happened. One, I'll share an EVP here in a second, but as far as the energy goes, this is what I remember: is there's a section of their sick bay, and of course the Hornet was involved in war. It was World War II as well as the Gulf and everything else. So it saw a lot of action during its life. Right now it's tied up in Alameda, and it's a museum, right? A floating museum. So we went there. I spent the night there, and in the sick bay area, I remember the story goes that, of course, in the sick bay, you know, people were injured, they were maimed, the whole 9 yards, running them through. So you hear the story ahead of time and you go down there. And I remember walking from the main space into a smaller space, like it was like the main sick bay into maybe the smaller medical area. And there was such a distinct change in atmosphere when I crossed that threshold. Like I have never experienced that before. It was as if the entire space felt different physically and mentally. And I know that's kind of hard to explain, but it was as if I was stepping into some other place, even though it was obvious. I mean, visually everything was the same, but I don't know. It wasn't even goosebumps or anything like that. It was just like a physical, mental change in atmosphere, right?
Like another plane of existence, but in the same exact space.
I wonder if it was the surgical room.
You know, it might have been, Donald. Now that I think about it, it might have been, but it was. So when you talk about energy and vibrations and things like that, and of course words like that we hear, and if you're a non-believer, you'll tend to push that off. Ha ha ha, blah blah blah. That doesn't make any sense. There's no such thing, except when you're in with a group of people at some social event, and all of a sudden you're drawn to somebody. Well, why are you drawn to that person? There's a certain vibration, a certain energy that goes on. So if it can happen there, it can lend itself to other disciplines like paranormal investigation.
Absolutely.
But then and I'll share this EVP with you from the Hornet, and I've got it queued up here. So where this took place was in that sick bay area, and there's 2 voices. There's myself, and then there's this person I was with, and it was only the 2 of us in there. And in between, you hear a high-pitched, and Donald and I were talking about this earlier, where a lot of EVPs, if you slow them down, you can actually hear what they are. So I'm going to play this clip, and hopefully it comes through okay. So here we go. I guess you didn't hear the first part. I must have clipped that off. But the word that came through with that was tragedy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did not include the other part of it, but that word was caught in between me say something and this other person saying something, and it was right in the middle, and it was high pitched, and it wasn't until I slowed it way down, and come to find out that was an area where I guess a person had been heavily burned and passed away in that particular area. So that was really interesting. So those two things combined really added, another level of belief to the paranormal. And I would say to listeners or those folks that are watching, when it comes to this type of calling, right, is if you really want to understand more about the conversation that we're having, or even some of the shows, even though they're overly dramatized, okay? And I think we all can agree that any paranormal investigation isn't necessarily walking in through the front door and getting all this activity.
It's like fishing.
No,
sometimes you get stuff, sometimes you don't.
We've sitting for hours.
Oh yeah,
hours
I've been before and sat and
going
been
over-
almost bored to tears because nothing was happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, going over recordings and video going, there's nothing here.
Right. But for those folks that really are interested in this, is you really need to experience it, experience those long periods of, and as a matter of fact, you could go all night and leave and say, well, I got nothing, and then go home and review evidence and find out that you have electronic voice phenomena.
Which is most of the time.
Most of the time, what happens? Yeah,
That's exactly
Yeah.
most of the time.
That's probably my favorite piece of equipment. I mean, I like all the fun, fancy like REM pods and things like that, but like, I mean, you can ask him when we would do events together and stuff. I headphones, noise canceling headphones, mic boost on my recorder. That was my favorite thing. I like to sit and listen live, and I like the audio for sure.
So let's talk about equipment. So what do you guys do you guys have a favorite piece of equipment that you use, or do you like
Other than the recorder,
I'm the cameras. I love cameras.
okay?
So
I use these and this
equipment.
I don't really have a piece of equipment that's a favorite.
Good for you.
I have absolutely enjoyed the equipment.
oh my gosh, we have a
Because-
collection like nobody's business.
Mhm.
And so, some of it to me is probably a lot more valid than others. I think if the audio recorder, like Heather's saying, is a must. You got to have that.
Right.
Like Dawn said, camera.
You can use
You got to have a camera.
You can use your phone for the camera, especially as fancy as the cameras get nowadays.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you can take some really cool pictures.
So-
So
But we would use full spectrum cameras, night vision cameras,
Mhm.
The REM box.
anything
what I took.
electronic meter stuff. But really, it's all kind of fun. I think it's interesting too, the SLS Connect camera. I've got a couple of those.
Yeah.
Which is based off of, the Xbox Connect video game system. And it's fun. A lot of people don't understand the concept of that. And basically that the Xbox, some of the games, the piece is set up on your, underneath your TV, and it's to mimic your hand movements and everything, so that it portrays back to the screen and you're playing the game like that. So by using one of those and hooking it just straight up to a monitor, and then being able to point that thing around and pick up on stick figures as you see on the monitor,
Right.
I find it interesting, especially when they're moving, because you can clearly see with your own eyes that there's nothing there moving.
Mm-hmm. And yet it's picking something up.
It's picking something up. Now, is it every time? Is that legit? No, I don't think so. Sometimes
No, but you
it'll
can
pick
kinda
up. Yeah, sometimes it'll pick up on something, and it's stationary. It's not moving or doing anything. But when you pick up on the stick figure, and it shows it walking away or throwing a hand up or waving or doing something weird, and you're sitting there going, I didn't see that. So is that a definite spirit there or something? I don't know, but I do think that piece of equipment is really interesting, and I enjoy still investigating with that.
I'd say in addition to like the audio, I kind of like some of these combo pieces, like the Eddy, because it's got like the geo, the thing that measures
Vibration.
Yes, and it's got like a temperature gauge on it. It's got a K2 on it. I like the millimeter because it's the same thing. It's got like more than one piece in it, and it's something you can just set across the room or in the center of the room, and you can walk around and do your thing, and it will measure different pieces. It just kind of, and for me, if I'm listening and I hear something or whatever, sometimes that it will make the other piece of equipment go off, and then it's almost like a validation. It just kind of coincides.
Yeah, I think using this stuff to validate each other is probably one of the smartest things. But if I was telling anybody to what to go and get, if you wanted to go out and investigate, get you a nice just audio recorder, get you a nice set of headphones, get you a just your phone camera. It will work just fine. And but get you something. The cheapest thing is like the little K2 meters.
Yes.
You want to really be able to go through and debunk where that energy is coming from a lot of times. Before we would ever do an investigation for a private residence, we would always go through, Dawn and I would always go through the entire house and with K2 meters and stuff like that to see if there was just where the energy was coming from in the house. You get around your breaker box, you get around your microwave, you get around your refrigerator,
hot water heaters, could be on the backside of a wall. Somebody's
thermostat,
something. It's
all those things is putting off energy, and so you want to make sure that you're aware of those before you even start your investigation. So that, oh my gosh, there's something over here next to the refrigerator. No, that's the refrigerator.
Yeah, see, that's the two pieces of equipment that I think really intrigue me the most are the digital recorder and things like the K2 or the millimeter or anything that picks up electromagnetism, right? Yeah. The former one, the K2 meter specifically, or even the REM pods, it all works on the same concept, right? You're absolutely right. I mean, I think the K2, if you don't believe in ghosts, you'd use that to check maybe for bad circuits, maybe something's putting off more electromagnetic energy that it should, then you can have a technician come out and fix it. Got that.
Right.
What's that?
I said the air conditioning can kick on and it'll affect the K2.
Right. So if you pull, and this is where nobody's been able to give me a good answer to this, and I've asked this question many times, is if you remove all electrical interference things, okay, so you're in a building like Trans-Allegheny, for example, down in Weston, where there is no electricity pumped into these spaces. If you turn off your cell phone, because sometimes the cell phone will affect your K2. Mm-hmm. Explain to me how electromagnetism can be free floating and affect your equipment in those particular circumstances. And nobody's been able, from a skeptical side, to explain that. Is there such a thing as free floating electromagnetism?
It is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes form. So I don't see why it couldn't be just floating around everywhere.
So I'll give you my opinion, which is non-scientific whatsoever. But yes, that electromagnetic energy and stuff that's floating around, even wiring and copper, metal, parts of the building and stuff like that, even there's no electricity going through it, it's conducting everything that's around. And there's actually, there's always electricity in the air, even from
a storm,
like cell phone signals, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, depending on the building itself, you can get or wrap yourself around a copper wire and you're going to pick up something.
Well, your part has electrical energy. So just being in a room, you are producing a new energy.
They're getting toys.
Okay, so Donald, you gave me a really good skeptical response to that question. No, you really did, which is good because I hadn't considered the fact that there could be residual electromagnetism in copper wiring and things like that, which makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. The point I was going for would be the believer side, which is, well, if it isn't that, it's got to be
correct,
right? So I'm really glad that you said that because You didn't answer my question, and now you made it even more confusing for me. So thank you, because that makes sense.
That's what y'all-
So
Now I'll finish that off before he tells you about this and gets his opinion. The other thing I actually feel about that is we've been to places where all electricity is turned off. There's nothing there, and you'd pick up something. And even though I'm a skeptic that I can go, all right, well, what about this over here? And and I used to do microwave radios and stuff with cell towers and understand the signals and things. There's sometimes that even me trying to do what I just did, if you're looking at it and you're getting the readings, there's nothing's going to explain that. There's something there.
Right.
So yeah, you turn everything off, you're getting something, and sometimes you just can't explain it.
Right.
Why it's called paranormal.
That's right.
So John, I just want to show you this. If you can see this here, I'm going to hold it up closer to the camera.
There you go.
So this is probably my favorite piece of equipment.
It's the tri-field natural EM meter, folks.
A natural one. Now they make a tri-field meter. This is the tri-field natural.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one is specifically designed so that it's not picking up your refrigerator, your microwave, and things like that. And so this is a really interesting piece of equipment. It's a little old. I don't think they make this thing anymore. You have to probably find it on a secondary market or something.
Right.
But I really enjoyed setting that thing up in a room and watching it because it's not going to pick up on me. So that's one of the cool things about it.
Right.
But I would recommend if that's something you found or came across, try this thing out. It's pretty interesting.
Right.
Because it's not made for ghost hunting. This is not made for that stuff. This is
yeah. When people first went down this road, I mean, if you go back in history, it's they use tools that were never meant for this.
Right.
Exactly.
Which was the second part of the digital recorder slant EMF detector thing. And I guess this question is more aimed towards Donald, since you're the skeptical one. Maybe you can help explain this, an alternate explanation. In the old days, right, when you go back to 40s and the 50s, when they did a lot of ghost investigation, Ed and Larry and Warren, for example, or Hans Holzer, those type people, they would use reel-to-reel magnetic tape.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, from a skeptical perspective, when you picked up a voice, you would immediately say, well, the tape's been recorded on, and even though it's been erased, there's still residual magnetism that when played back, you can hear the voice. Got it. Okay. And I'll step back and go, all right, I'll give you that. But how do you explain voices showing up on digital media, which is, yes, it's got a magnetic current in it. However, if you're buying it straight from Walmart, how can there be a pre-existing voice that might come through? You know what I mean? So my question would be, how would you explain that then, if not paranormal?
So with that one, I've actually thought about it several times, and I cannot repeat some of the stuff I looked up on digital recording and how the digital goes, what the voice it records and goes into the microchip and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to tell you is no, I don't. To me, if it's a digital recorder, that I cannot explain that. I actually do not have anything in my head or anything I looked up that I can debunk off of that one. Awesome. It's pretty much if they're doing something digital to me, because the only thing digital to me that I can debunk on something like that is like if you're using a digital recorder and you say I've used this thing for the past 10 years. And I'm going to say, well, I'll be quite honest with you, because yes, you can erase stuff off of hard drives and digital and everything else, but
still leaves something there.
There's probably still something in there. And if there's anything that can be pulled off of it, okay. And if it's something fuzzy and you're going, can't you hear it says cat? And I hear, well, okay, yeah, I think you're making that up. But if it's plain as day, it's something you bought, it's new. I'm pretty much going to look at it and go, oh, that's cool. Yeah. Where'd you get it from? I'm going to believe it.
So before you get too far off that, one of the funny things I wanted to say was, you think about back when we had VCRs, and we would play the VCR tape over and over again. We would record our favorite shows on that VCR tape over and over again. Eventually, at some point, or if it was one that you rented back in the old days, at some point,
before Netflix,
yeah, you're going to start playing that VCR tape, and it's going to have a blend over of a couple of different things that are recorded on there.
Right.
So I think when you get into talking about the old reel or the old cassette tapes and things like that, that throws that up for, interpretation sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the digital, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I don't have a thing for it.
All right. No, that works for me. I'm good with that. All right. Christine asks, do you research a place before you investigate, or do you go into a place without any prior information?
I would say if it's like a non-residence, because I haven't really done a lot of residence, so I can't speak on that. But I would say if it's a non-residence place, like, Trans-Allegheny and stuff like that, absolutely you do your research. Absolutely.
Good.
Go ahead.
No, I've actually, I would research where it's at.
Okay. And then her second part is, do you think having prior information about a place affects your experience? Now, her and I, we've had this conversation many times, so I'm glad she asked the question.
All right, so I want to pop in on this one right here really good.
I'm going to pop in on it too.
So when we would do investigations for people for the residences, Dawn and I would usually go out a week, days in advance, and we would sit down and we would ask them, okay, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What rooms? At that time, we would be, using the meters to determine where the hot spots are in the house as far as things like that.
Right.
We would document every bit of that. Now, we would not share that information with the rest of the team when we would go back to do the investigation. We would know this. We would have those notes. And so that may influence where we're setting up, static cameras and things like that, or where we want a certain investigator to be in that area. Because we had one investigator that was with us at the time who was, a very sensitive medium and could see stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't want to influence anything. But we would have cases where, we would hear, okay, one particular case, okay, she told us that there was an Indian that she saw outside of her window, a Native American. Right. And so our sensitive medium, first thing she saw when she stepped out of the car, she said, there's a Native American guy that's standing over there.
Right.
She had no idea. It was not anything that we shared with her.
Right.
Yeah, I like researching it. I like to know about the place before I'm going into it. And what she was saying is, I do actually believe that if everybody who's doing the investigation knows everything about the place and the history of it and has researched it, yes, that can actually, prompt you in effect. Which is what he was talking about, is people on our team wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And they would see stuff, tell us things, and we actually would go with them versus what we knew to go with it and follow it, because
I think
I don't want my judgment to get into it for what I've researched.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't want and for me, I personally think knowing that history, I think it depends on the person. No, it's okay. I think it depends on the person, the individual themselves, because, if you're somebody who's a skeptical believer, like we are, you give me this information. Okay, cool. I know what everybody else has experienced. I understand what the history is. I'm going to go in. Now, if I see something or somebody hears something, experiences something, whatever, I'm still going to be that skeptic, and I'm going to go see if I can debunk it. Is it really legit? Is this really what everybody says they've been experiencing, or is this just because that's what was said,
Yeah,
So
I didn't want to know anything going in, other than
you're also very sensitive, so that makes sense.
and that's the reason
You don't want to be. You don't want to have thoughts already in your head.
I didn't
They're
want
going
to
to make you kind of go looking. Yeah, but for me, like, I'm not necessarily looking for what evidence that I've been told. Oh, this person, hangs around this room. We see dark shadows and mists over here. Okay, I'm not going to go looking for that. I'm going to look and see what I actually see, experience, feel, hear, smell, whatever, and then take it from there.
Yeah.
Right.
But I have a little history, so I go, okay, well, it could be this, or it could be something
And we would
completely different.
Use that in our early investigations with them not telling the rest of us.
That's what I was telling you.
It would be a good check and balance at the end.
Yes.
It would either validate or invalidate.
Yep.
And it gave us a better sense. It also increases the trust between your team members.
Yes.
When you do that,
Yeah.
because then you don't go in trying to make sure that you hear something or anything like
Yeah,
that.
you're
When you come
not-
out on the other side, it's an actual conversation and
Right.
looking at facts.
Yeah.
So
You're not trying to make
yeah.
the evidence work for your
Right.
investigation.
You're
You're
just
actually
looking for the
trying
evidence.
to investigate for evidence.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly what she said.
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, that's a really good answer. And I'm glad because like I said, she and I have had this conversation every time we watch something on television that's paranormal. It
Yeah,
seems to go to that particular question is, do we think that having too much knowledge about something can actually affect what it is that you're doing? And I suppose it's probably the same question that we spoke of earlier about your religious beliefs and how that affects. It's the same kind of concept where sometimes the more you know can be harmful. But on the other hand, if you don't know anything, then that could be harmful as well, because you may not know how to interpret what it is that you're experiencing, right? If shadow figures would be a great example. If you didn't know that was something that was a phenomenon that happened at a particular location, and Donald, you being the one that sees apparitions and stuff, right? Or no, that was Sam that saw the apparition. If he didn't know that,
But see,
Yeah.
you have differing abilities,
right?
and being a skeptic is one of those abilities.
Yeah.
So everybody on the team has a role that they share, so that whether we experience the same thing or not, we trust those roles that everybody plays. And that's what makes a good team, is to have a lot of different roles that people can fulfill so that you have a more rounded experience.
So how do you guys feel about solo investigations then? I mean, would any of you see yourself just going out and doing it?
No. You gotta have the buddy system, and it's not even
Yeah.
about like being scared or anything. It's about safety.
Yeah.
Like if you go investigate, you're like, oh, look at this dilapidated house over here. I bet it's haunted. Let's go check it out. If you go in by yourself and you fall through a hole and you're stuck, you break your leg or something stupid, you're stuck.
Don't go swimming
You're
alone.
stuck.
I mean, it's
If
the
you're
same
doing-
concept.
But if you've got somebody there with you, you've at least got somebody who can call 911 or transport you to where you need to go, or just come and check on you and pull you up out of the hole.
Or
I mean,
the property owner drives by and they've got a shotgun. I mean, you have to have a buddy system somewhere.
but you have to, you
Or
have to go.
accountability buddy.
You can't do by yourself. And like some of these shows that have people that are by themselves, okay, if that's really what you want to do, but if you go and you separate and like your walkies don't even reach each other, something detrimental could happen. And if you're staying there till whatever time in the morning till you decide to, okay, sun's up, it's time to break down, that person might have been bleeding out if they got hurt.
Not
Or
to mention,
trapped
I am
in a jail
scaredy
cell or
cat.
something.
I am
I
a
get it.
scaredy cat. I don't
I'm
wanna
afraid
be
of
by
the dark.
myself.
I won't lie. Pitch
I want
black.
someone there with me.
Me too.
It's something none of them have mentioned yet is, what if the environment, whatever's there, affects you?
Yeah.
What if that's something that you're sensitive to the point where it physically
Affects you.
affects you
Mhm.
and causes harm.
A panic attack, an anxiety attack. We're talking real.
You get
things
rageful
that
for
can-
some reason.
Yeah, you get nauseous. Any of those things.
Any type
especially
of
if you're
you were
for a long
talking about
time.
possible possessions at that point.
I mean, you never know.
If you go and past, even all that, what I look at also is if you're doing a solo investigation, even if you're like going to like a hotel and each person goes to a room somewhere, to me, one person going and doing an investigation in one spot, you don't have the, it's individualized. So if you have more than one person and something happens, and then you have a validation that two people have seen this. The same thing with equipment. If you have one piece of equipment, then you only have one piece of data. If you have 5 pieces of equipment, that something
You can
happens. You have
cross it.
5 pieces of data.
Yeah.
So investigations with at least 2 people in a area, you have a validation of more information and data on that particular instance than you do one person going, I heard it.
Right.
And even when we would do a lot of our residential investigations for people, if it was just one of us that was in a room or something, though, we still had the static cameras that were set up. And so Donald was usually watching the cameras, and he could actually radio in or come and get us if something was wrong, if he saw something was not going right.
Yeah, I was listening to audio through the camera, looking at the camera to where, and that's where the other part about it is if she was in a room and she was talking and she was getting stuff off of whatever equipment she was doing, I'm also watching things as a validator going, I can see that coming across. Right. And then I also might be able to see something that she can't if I'm using a multi-spectrum camera, looking at the room or night vision or whatever it is. Yeah. So that's still, you're doing a 2-person investigation in an area, even if it's not physically there.
The minimum.
Yeah.
It's scientific method. You got to have more than you can't just do it once. You have to do it more than once to validate.
Yeah. We could talk for hours about the scientific, the scientific method in terms of the paranormal, because I know that's been a contentious subject on, for most skeptics for as long as people have been, researching the paranormal, is that repeatability factor, right? Let alone the validation, because I know that, Lucinda, you and I could be in a room, you could experience something and I don't. Absolutely. So there really isn't any validation at that point, right? So
we're so individually made up that there's no way that, based on our past traumas, based on our healing level, where we are in our life, all of those things make such a huge difference in how we perceive the world around us.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Perceive the emotions that we get if we receive emotions from rooms or situations or things like that.
And then maybe the spirit doesn't like men. Maybe it doesn't like women. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll communicate with someone else, in there. Maybe it feels your
more
energy.
Comfortable with somebody
and it
else
feels,
than one person.
Yeah, it feels your energy and feels more comfortable with your energy as opposed to someone else's energy.
Like I get a lot of kids that gravitate towards me.
I think that's a big thing,
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. All right. Now you guys had sent some pictures, and believe it or not, we're already at 52 minutes into this thing, which is amazing. I've got all these other questions that are floating around, but I do want to get to some of the pictures. So of the sets, and I know that we had some from Savannah, we had some from that you, Heather, sent, and then Sam, you sent me another set, which was somebody sent from where?
From a person that sent those in to us.
Okay.
Asking for our opinions on what we thought that might be.
All right. Which image set would you like to take a look at first?
Any of you, go for Heather's.
But it doesn't matter. Whatever you start with. Okay.
Let me open these things up and make sure that my system is operating in accordance with the Mac operating system. Here we go. And okay, these are probably going to be out of sequence a little bit, and I apologize for that, but it's just the nature of the beast here. So
this is actually a close-up. We were supposed to have an event at a location, and it got canceled last minute. And so we decided to head out towards like Johnson City, Tennessee. And there's a little jail there. I can't remember. It's their old little county jail. And I had taken a picture of like the jail cells downstairs, and I zoomed in on it because I took what I thought was a face. It looked like a face in there. So,
that would be up in this top where
it looks like there's the eyes and the nose and the mouth.
Yeah.
Right. Which
I don't know that it necessarily is that, but that's what it looked like. Yeah. It was pretty interesting. Okay. But we weren't in it. We were just in there, just walking around doing our own little thing. It wasn't like it was a full-on event or investigation. Yeah. So in that, it's going to be on the second row, right in the middle.
And that would be second row, middle. This one here?
Up one.
Up one. This one here. Okay.
Right, that's where I had seen it. I don't know how I even noticed it. But yeah, it was just at a little county old jail that like people could just walk in and out of, and that's what we did.
Okay.
This one This one was actually, I took like 3 pictures in a row. This one was at the Tracy City in Tennessee, the Tracy City High School in the gymnasium. Now, the gymnasium was on the back side of the school, so it was not near the road. So I don't know what that big thing is that's going down that. Yeah, the big line. I don't know.
Yep.
Yes, that was not in any of the other pictures. But if you can see on the left side, there's a chute going up to the window. There's a face in the window.
Right up here?
Yeah, on the left. So on the left, there's like it looks like a little streak.
Mhm.
Center window left.
This one here and up here?
Yeah, right there. And it's only in that picture, but there's a face. If you zoom in, you can see
Yeah,
what
let's
looks
see
like
if
a
I can
face in the window.
see if I can. I don't know if I can zoom in on this thing. I think I can. I'm working with multiple monitors here, and I've got.
That zoomed in. Now you just have to bring it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can bring it over that way. I don't know if I can bring it over as far as I want.
Either way, there was a face in there, and I didn't even notice it when I was looking before. But I have a friend named Rick who is a ghost hunter as well, and he's a stuntman and everything. I met him at a con, but he pointed that out to me. He said, "You realize you got a face in the window up there?" And I said, "What?"
And
I just really saw, what's this orange streak going down the side? That's what I was.
Over here.
That's the thing I was noticing. But yeah, it looks like, I don't know. Hang on, let me see if I can.
This was with a digital camera, I'm presuming, or iPhone, or what was it?
It was with my phone.
Okay.
So let me see. I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well on my. But it kind of looks.
Let me bring it up here. Hang on, let me.
It kind of looks like a face.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
But when you look at it in person, it's easier to see some of the features.
Right.
So.
And that's a good thing about digital, I think, as well. Although, I'm kind of on both sides of the fence when it comes to the equipment used for photographing the paranormal. Right? You've got things like Polaroids. You've got the old-fashioned film camera, which is a little less likely to be manipulated after the fact than digital. But on the other hand, digital, you have that capability now of enhancing photographs to the point where we could clarify details and you can zoom in. And
I can tell you, I am not technologically savvy when it comes to that. So these are all like, I took the picture and that's it.
It is what it is. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What else we got here? Let me see if I can get this. Okay. This one here.
So that one's really tiny, but if you want to see it big, like in better clarity, yeah, that's pretty good. It's actually aired. Unbeknownst to me until we saw it. It's actually aired on Paranormal Caught on Camera on the Discovery app or Discovery Channel, and is I looked it up last night. It is season 4, episode 21. And they went to the Titanic. It was at the Titanic Museum in 2014, the one in Pigeon Forge. And in the case that's on the left, it's like a bed warmer or a book or something like that. But somewhere out of nowhere, a woman's like a full woman, like apparition, a little dress is there.
Yeah.
There was nobody. We did dress up, but everybody dressed up in just nice formal clothing. Nobody was there looking old fashioned. But even then, a reflection is not going to be tiny like that. It's going to be a full size, like human reflection.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that was actually taken by some of my friends that were guests at that, and it was taken with a flip phone.
Okay.
So
old-fashioned flip phones. Flip phones.
that's me on the right there. You can see. So
Yeah, and just Christine, since you're still watching, this Titanic Museum is the exact one that you and I went to. So don't be freaked out. But yeah,
my favorite places to
love that
investigate.
place.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
one of my favorite places to investigate. It's amazing.
There's
This
you.
one was when I had first become crew with that company, and we were actually at the Thomas House in Red Wailing Springs. It's a bed and breakfast inn, and one of my friends at the time was like, "Send me a selfie." I don't really like taking selfies, but I did it, snapped it, sent it to him, was about to delete it, and he said, "It looks like you're not alone." And I was like, "What are you talking about? The fake flowers like behind my shoulder?" And he said, "No," and it actually is between my hair and the fake flowers. There's something floating behind me. You can see the eye, you can see the mouth, you can see the neck, and you can see that it's transparent because there's like a chair or a bench or something behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a totally unexpected. We were on a midnight break. I just took a picture at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
So
Christine actually said, I picked up on some information while we were there.
oh, that's cool.
Interesting. Let's see what else we got. Once I get to there, we go.
So this one's at the same place, the Thomas house. This one's obviously during the day, but if you're looking on the right side of the screen, there's the chair or whatever, and then there's that little shelf, and then right behind that shelf, it looks like what appears to be a little girl standing right there. That there is nobody there. There literally is like a white angel statue that sits on that thing. So there is something, right there, something standing in the doorway. But if you look even more, right in between the two guys' heads, if you zoom in a little bit more, it looks like a face with teeth right there. Right right at the back of it. That kid's head. Right there.
Here.
So I don't know if that was really that or if that was just a play on light or whatever, but I thought that was fairly interesting.
Very interesting
on that one. That place has so many. This is the same hall. So that statue you see right there, that's that. But yeah, those are orbs taken by, that's a picture taken by one of my friends. I was there with him at that night when that picture was taken, but those are legit orbs everywhere. This bed and breakfast has so much there. There's so many portals because there's mirrors all over the place. And some of them face each other.
Yes.
So that doesn't surprise me that there's all that.
Yeah, you know what? Why I find this so interesting because I have photographs of quote unquote orbs.
Yeah.
But they're significantly different than this.
Yes.
And so, a lot of folks will say, well, it's dust particles in the air. And while 99% of the time, that's probably, matter of fact, the orbs that I've taken photos of, I'd be willing to bet that what that is dust because you're in a dusty place. You kick stuff up, you don't see it, you take a photo and there they are. However, what I'm looking at in this photograph is completely different than that.
It's absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it almost looks as if they're self-illuminated.
Yes.
And like the one on the lower left, this one over here, and I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit, it has like energy coming from it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something you do not see with your typical dust orbs.
Right.
So that's an amazing shot right there, I think.
Yes, I concur.
Yeah.
Now this one, same place, but a different hallway, and it's a ghost cat.
Oh, is that what that is at the bottom?
Yep, you can see the eyes, and you can kind of see the body and see the tail. It's a little ghost cat right in front of the table.
That's cute.
And that is actually, like I've been told many times, I've never experienced it other than this picture. There have been guests that have been to that place and their kids are like, oh, hey, kitty. And then the cat disappears and they're like, Mommy, where'd the kitty go? And there is no cat. They don't have pets at this place.
They don't have pets.
They don't have any pets. None.
Oh.
So it's pretty interesting.
I think that was the last shot.
Yeah, I think that was the last on mine.
Okay. Yeah, we're at an hour, so I'll probably end up holding the other set of photos for the next time that you're on.
Absolutely.
But I do have a question. Christina Blue, she asks a good question here as well. Have you ever experienced emotions of extreme love when interacting with these entities?
Yes.
You have.
Yes. That little boy I told you that followed me around the Titanic, like I really felt like that, he missed his mommy and he was following me and it just felt very comforting and warming. And he actually came down to that room where that picture was taken and stood next to me. And I felt him, I felt like the chills and my dress move. And I made my other crew member, I said, is my dress moving? She said, absolutely not. But I felt very like warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. Awesome. So it's not all this negative stuff that you see on television. And again, I hate to keep going back to that, but
No.
like we were saying, they over dramatize everything.
We had a Dawn and I we were in one of the rooms and at someone's house, and the reports were that they had seen a little girl spirit throughout the house. And so I was sitting on the couch in the room and I said, if there's a little girl in here, would you come over here and sit on the couch with me? And I've actually got this EVP I can send to you, and we play it back, and as clear as day, you can hear the child in a little girl's voice say no, and then say, Mommy.
Wow.
And when you hear that, you can't help but get emotional about it,
Right.
Thinking about that child spirit and is it stuck there? And what can you do for it?
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, this has been just as I thought. It exceeded my expectations.
Good.
And but I want to thank you, Heather, Sam, Donald, and Lucinda, for spending this hour with me and with all our listeners and those folks that'll watch and listen as time moves on. Because remember, the internet's forever.
Yes.
yes.
So this conversation will be out there forever. So someday somebody's going to look back and go, "Hey, I remember those people. They got me into paranormal investigating, or they helped explain something for me." But really, I can't thank you enough. This has just been amazing for me.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
Thank you. But yeah, so folks, the next 2 weeks I'm going to be off. Next week, Lucinda and I don't know, Donald, are you going down to Atlanta or no? You're going. All right. Cool.
Yes.
So yeah. Next week, Lucinda and I we're going to be speaking at the Behind the Power event in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to be talking about fear. Lucinda's going to be talking about something. Hopefully paranormal investigation would be awesome, but I don't think that's the case.
I can probably work that in somehow.
Yeah.
One's back behind her. Waldo.
But we're going to be down in Atlanta, so there won't be a broadcast next week. And the following week, I think, is that's the 24th of October. I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to broadcast on that date yet, but if I do, you guys will be the first to know. So anyway, thank you again for all you folks watching and listening. Thank you for spending this time with us. It's been a lot of fun, and with Halloween coming up, don't be afraid of things that go bump in the night, because they're not going to hurt you. They're just people too.
Yes.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you so very much for joining me on the Art Talk podcast, where it's my goal to bring artists together to talk about their craft. If you'd like to join me for a conversation, please reach out via email at johncoleartist@gmail.com or by visiting my website at johnrobertcole.com. So until next time, keep crafting, painting, and inspiring others with your creativity. You make more of an impact than you know. See ya.